In the name of Allah, really. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. First of all, thank you to the people that have turned up, and it's actually quite nice that people have turned up in the first place. I didn't know what I was expecting, to be honest. We had a lot of people sign up, which is a very normal thing. People see something like a free webinar, free, as long as it says the word free, a lot of people sign up. But I didn't expect that many people to actually turn up. So even this is like crazy, We got 5, 6 people in here. It's the beginning of something very new. So Alhamdulillah, Jazakallah for being here. And really, this is kind of a tester session. I wanted to make sure I can pull something off like this as well. I didn't do that much marketing because I didn't want to really have like many people here at the same time in something I was trying new. So I thought, okay, let's just have a taster session. Let's see what if people like something like this webinar style, and if people are happy with it, then amazing. So yeah, there's not much more for me to say. Obviously, assalamu alaikum. I'm Sufyan, the person behind From Across Qatar. Then we've got Sharif. We've got people leaving. I don't know if that's a drop-off issue or if that's just me. We've got Sharif, who's from Singapore, who's going to be teaching us about some networking skills. And then we've got Abdul Rahman, who's going to be teaching us about how to find the right people you're looking for in terms of getting started in the right direction to moving across the borders to Qatar, how to find the right people that you need to speak to exactly. Next slide. First, before we jump into it, really, there is a new YouTube channel which I've made particularly for this entire expat relocation, Qatar travel guide, Qatar relocation guide, like everything about Qatar on one page. I know there was a lot of confusion between my own personal channel, which is SidXT, and From Across Qatar, which is like my new page. So because of that, I've made an entirely new page, From Across Qatar, on YouTube. Definitely go drop a subscribe on there because there's going to be a lot of educational content, including this webinar is going to go straight onto that channel after this, inshallah. There will be a lot on there which will be very helpful for people across the world, really, in order to move to Qatar. So, and there'll be some really entertaining concepts because for me it's all about entertainment. How do I make this content entertaining? Sometimes it is just me sat here talking to the camera, but I want to bring more than that, besides just being sat at the camera. So I'm seeing how I can blend my current channel SidXT to From Across Qatar as well. And then in terms of for me, there's not much more for me to say besides because today I just want to give the platform to the experts in these two particular areas. So I'm gonna just give them the floor and let them speak, inshallah. I'm gonna mute myself. I have a tendency to talk a lot.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, guys. Thanks, Sufyan, for the introduction. I wouldn't by far call me an expert, but these are just some of the tips and tricks that I've figured out working in recruitment for a while. My name is Abdul Rahman. I'm the Global Director of TLT Consulting. My email is there as well for anyone who would like to contact me just about any queries, anything that I've spoken about today. Sid, next one.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So on the agenda today, we've got 3 things that I'm going to briefly touch on. I was told by Sid that I made a lot of slides. So for me, I'm just going to kind of whiz through them, but give you a few tips and tricks that hopefully are useful to you in your job search. So we're going to talk about how to find the right jobs, how to identify hiring managers, and how to message for replies and not just message for jokes. Sid, next. Okay, cool. So LinkedIn is actually your greatest tool, especially in the Middle East. LinkedIn filters are very important. When you go in on there, don't just look for jobs and just, when there's a jobs button there, don't just click on it and just, gung ho everything. You have to be very specific. What you do, exactly. If you're a software engineer, you're a software engineer. If you're in cybersecurity, you're in cybersecurity, whatever you are. But put your role on, or the role that you want to do on. That's important. And now it's important to also use the other things, or the other filters. So posted in the last 24 hours. This is important because especially the most recent ones, those are the ones that are going to have less applicants. Those are the ones that are going to have less visibility. And if you get there first, that's really good. Set your location to where you want, so Doha, Dubai, Riyadh, Muscat, wherever you want. Company size, I'm saying 51 to 200 because those are the companies that are, when you have the large companies, they're the ones that take age, they're the ones that take the mick a little bit. You want to go for the smaller companies, mid-sized companies, I guess. They're the ones that they have the budget, so 51 to 200, they do have a budget, but they're the ones that, the hiring manager will talk to you directly. The process won't be that long. They'll be able to, it's more personal, if you know what I mean. Um, and save your search. Again, that's very important. Check your emails every day. If something new comes up, go to it. We'll talk about the apply now button in a bit as well, but not yet. Don't look for jobs that have been posted 30 days ago, because you're going to get lost in those. There's no point in that. It's best to just stick to the ones that are most recent and carrying on doing that. Sid, next one. Cool. This is one of the biggest issues that I've faced with people. Don't read job descriptions for some reason. They just think that it says something. They're like, oh, I once had a chef send me an email saying that, great job post, I'd like to apply. And I was like, it was for a cybersecurity engineer. I said, you have zero skills. So when I was sat there reading this, I didn't even read their CV because he was a chef. He had no cybersecurity experience. And when I did open the CV later on, zero cybersecurity experience. I'd let him into my kitchen because apparently he had a lot of experience there, but that's about it. Read the job description, look at the things that you must have. If you have the must have skills like React, Node, AWS, these are examples, for example, or the tools or the levels, then apply for them. If it says senior, but you literally just got out of university, don't just try and fling your CV at the recruiter or the hiring manager and just hope for the best. It's not going to work, and they'll probably get a little bit annoyed as well. And if it says you must have this or you must have this, you actually must have those things. If you don't have those things, why is a recruiter gonna just write it on a post and then just be like, yeah, I'll look at your CV and put you for the job? Because it doesn't make sense for them as well. Um, Read the job descriptions. Like, I will reiterate this again multiple times. Read the job descriptions. People have a tendency to not do this, and then later on, when it comes to the conversation, if you do get to that stage of having a conversation, they're like, you actually don't have the skills for this job. Why are you applying? Don't just throw. We recruiters have this saying of wet tissues on a wall. Don't just throw wet tissues against the wall. You have to be very specific. And later on, we'll talk more about the how you should go about your job search. Sid, next. Okay, we did this one. I think it's just yeah. Okay, now when you're looking for the right people, okay, look for who you think your hiring manager is. Okay, so for example, if you think, if you're in your job place right now and you report to the security lead or the platform manager, lead data engineer, whatever, again, these are examples, then go and find them on LinkedIn. Okay, I'll show you how in a second. Okay, sorry, a minute. Yeah, go and find them. Don't go and speak with the HR people because they're not bothered, to be honest. The HR people, they're the ones who, you know, all the hiring managers, they give these CVs like, we like this guy, we like this guy, and then the HR guys, they just sit there and be like, we can't have this guy because he's from here. And the visas are not allowed right now, or we can't have this guy because he's not got enough experience, or so on and so forth. Don't like rely on the HR people. Go to the hiring managers directly. There's ways of looking for them, and I'll show you in a second. Sid, next. So this is the most important thing, okay? How to actually find the hiring managers. First things first, okay? When you go into LinkedIn, you find a job, okay? So let's say Microsoft has just put a job up. Now, what you do is you click on the company picture. Don't search for the company, by the way. It has there's some deeper things, but just click on the picture. When you click on the picture, there'll be different buttons. There's one button that says people. Okay, click on people, and there might be an engineering manager there. Okay, and you can filter the location further, and you might look for the location of that specific role. So Dubai, for example, Doha, Riyadh, whatever it is. Okay, and that engineering manager, connect with that person. Okay, and I'll show you what to write in the next one, but connect with them and do that for every single job. Connect with the hiring managers of each of the jobs. Look for the people that you think you're going to be reporting to. The ones that, for example, if you're doing a sideways move to a job in Doha, for example, think, I'm in my job right now. I'm a cybersecurity engineer, but I report to the cybersecurity lead, okay, or the head of information security. So find that same person in another country, in another company as well, and go and speak with them. You already know their language. Okay, you're just speaking to them. I'll show you what to write in the next one. Sid, next. This is important. How to message them. Okay, be very clear, be very straight up. Don't ask them how the weather is. They don't really care about that kind of stuff. Message them very clearly. Hi Ahmed, I noticed your team is hiring a senior backend engineer. I work with this, this, and this. Are you the right person to speak with, or should I reach out to someone else? Let me know. Okay, it's a direct message. Yeah, directly message them. Be very clear with your intent. Don't be like, help me find a job, get me into the company, please, please, please. That doesn't work, man. There's specific ways of messaging people. People just want to know, on LinkedIn especially, they just want to know why you message them. What's the what let's say, for example, as a hiring manager, what do you have that goes with the role? And if they're not the right person, just direct them to it. It's very clear. It's very straight up. You're not doing anything extra there. All you're doing is direct me to the right person, or are you the right person to speak? And if they are, amazing. Okay, then have another conversation with them. Next, follow-ups. Even as a recruiter, even as a salesperson, anything, follow-ups are key. The first message might not get read. Okay, I get hundreds and hundreds of WhatsApps and emails, every week. And I'll be honest with you, the first message maybe might slip through the net. But the follow-up, that's the one that's going to come through. And again, the follow-up is important as well. Don't sound like, you're going out and you're saying, please, please, please give me a job. No, it doesn't work like that. Just in case, again, the message over there is very, very clear. Hi, Ahmed. Following up in case it's through. Happy to share a short summary if helpful. Okay. You don't sound like, because you're going to be messaging a lot of people. Okay? When you're doing your job search, you're not just messaging one or two people, you're messaging a lot of people. So again, be very clear, be very direct in your messaging, and try not to, when you're doing things like this, just don't be one of those people that message the person every single day. After 5 days, message them. Okay, don't message them every single day. I had a guy once who sent me the exact same email. I don't know if you put it on automation or something. The exact same email every single day. Every single day. Now, don't get me wrong. I had another 100 people messaging me, but it got my attention. I had to message him and say, listen, like, I saw your email. You're not right for the roles that I'm doing right now. But inshallah, in the future, if there is something, then I'll come to you. Okay. But then he still carried on. Okay. And I'm not sure why. Yeah. I still haven't figured out why he did that. Well, Allahu alam. Sid, next. Yeah, look, in your job search, I read once and I completely agree with this. If you are really serious on looking for a new job, treat your job search like an actual job. Spend time on it. Go create a structure. Okay, you're doing 1, 2, maybe 3 hours worth of work. How are you going to go about it? Okay, who are you, which kind of roles are you looking for? Where are you looking for those roles? Okay, do you know the exact details that you want for those roles? For example, do you know this is the salary that I'm looking for? And do your research. Yeah, don't just go to them and say, do your research. Okay, you know what you're worth, number one, but you also know what the market should be like. That's the question. And sometimes, yes, fair enough, some hiring managers out there are a little bit wishy-washy, and they're like, what do you want? What salary do you want? Just be like, I want it as per market standard. The market standard is this range from this to this. This is what I want. Okay, know your worth at the same time, and it's okay to know your worth. And if you're, let's say, for example, in the UK or in the US or whatever, make sure that you're very clear on your intent on what you want. There are companies out there, amazing companies that are providing beautiful packages. They're giving housing allowances, they're giving transport allowances, they're giving great salaries, they're giving education. And there are companies out there that will try to undercut you and give you crap salaries. Okay, and they're the companies, honestly, avoid them like a plague. Okay, because they won't just cause you problems now. Yeah, they'll cause you problems during your actual tenure working for them as well, and you're going to want to run. Okay, and you're going to hate it. Yeah, just because we want to move to the Middle Eastern countries, amazing. It's a great place to work, but there are some companies out there who still don't have the best culture in the workplace, and we need to, try and avoid those companies for now. When those companies get sorted out, and inshallah they are. There's a lot of things happening in the background. These companies are starting to understand, and I've been to a lot of talks recently where people are actively trying to change the culture. Okay. But for now, there are other companies, and you'll know that yourself in the different interviews that you've done. You can tell straight away. if you go into an interview and the interview is late and he comes in straight away and he goes, "Why do you want this job? Like, are you gonna take that job?" No, because you can tell already they don't value your time. You're a candidate. You have skills. You're coming in with great skills. Showcase that and know your worth. But also at the same time, make sure that your job search is structured in the correct way. You're all professionals at the end of the day. You will know how to meet these KPIs. Set yourself some KPIs every day. Just hit them. Okay. Inshallah, if you have any questions, my email is there. Other than that, thanks so for giving me this
No
platform.
problem, Jazakallah. We're just waiting for Sharif. He's just messaged me, so I'm just giving him a second. But in the meantime, oh, he's here.
I'm here,
Perfect,
bro. I'm here,
perfect,
bro.
perfect,
Don't worry.
perfect,
Don't worry.
perfect. Right.
Yeah.
I'll stop
Can you guys
sharing.
hear me fine? Yep. No worries. Can you guys hear me fine on my
I
microphone? It
can
just
hear
shut.
you. Yeah.
Good.
I'll stop sharing and give you the.
Oh. Alrighty. Goody. Okay, so first of all, thanks again, Sufyan, for having me here today. Awesome stuff, Abdurrahman. It's like a ton of golden nuggets that I've just learned there. I think no matter how much experience or how much real life experience we have, there's always something we can learn from each other. And I think that's the whole spirit of this program. First of all, apologies if I'm not at the top of my game or if I'm slurring or if I'm half awake. It's just after midnight here in Singapore. But I'm pretty used to this calls typically at this time zone, given the time zone difference between Singapore and Doha. I do drop by Doha every other week or month or so. But yeah, still got my coffee here to try and keep my energy level up. So I'm basically here today to give to follow up with Abdul Rahman's session on networking online and LinkedIn and all that sort of good jazz, right? What I'm going to talk about more is about the offline experience, right? I think I know we live in a digital world today, social media, social networking, a lot of things happen online, but there's still value in trying to build real tangible relationships, right? And there's still real value in meeting people face to face in person. And that's why people pay thousands of dollars, hundreds of dollars, if not thousands of dollars to go to a live event, to meet someone in person and speak with them, right? So today I'm just going to share with you a little bit about my own journey in transitioning from a introvert. Wallahi, I'm an introvert. I know it's hard to believe when you see this, but it's been a metamorphosis for me over the past decade or two. And I just want to share with you some of the tips and tricks from the ground itself. And if we have time, inshallah, I'll also do a live session, right, about how I go about planning and strategizing my approach to events and such. But first thing first, let me make sure that I can get across my screen share. Okay, I'm just going to share my entire screen here. Can you guys see this?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, we can see that.
Yeah, all good. Okay, show my screen anyway. All right, cool. All right. So first up, just very quickly about who am I, which I think will tie in nicely into this session. So my name is Sharif. I'm based here in Singapore, but I do travel back and forth Doha. I've been in the tech startup scene for the past 20 years as a founder, as part of a corporate VC. Over the years, I've then moved to the darker side, became part of the venture capital VC scene. I've also run innovation programs for corporates, and now I essentially help portfolio companies of the venture funds that I'm associated with to expand to the Middle East, and also for companies, startups in the GCC expand into ASEAN. Right now, I'm also with a private family office in Doha. But what I would really want to zone on is over the past 2 decades, my experience as being a founder in the early days, where some of you all know, if you're a startup founder, you're basically jack of all trades, right? You're the product guy, you're the tech guy, you're the business development guy, you're the idea guy. But one thing that early stage startup founders do is actually hustle, right? We're essentially as the CEO of and founding CEO of a startup, you're essentially the full-time fundraiser, right? Especially if you're building a venture-backed company. What that means is that you're essentially going around stalking / hustling, people to raise funding, right? Primarily angel investors, VCs, and the likes, right? Sometimes even family office representative. So that's really my early day, breaking out the shell and forcing myself to be more of an extrovert, right? And true story, I'm actually, more of an introvert. Every time when I go to a event and I network, I may show my extrovert side of me, but once I'm back home, back in the hotel, I just want to lock myself up in the room for the next, one whole night or 2 days and not meet anyone at all, right? And just get back to building a product or building a slide deck or whatever it is, right? So because when you interact with people, it just sips out all my energy from me, right? And it can be quite tiresome. But just as a proof of how effectively I've been able to network over the years, here's a quick run through my hit list of who's who I've met. And this list is actually blank, right? I know you guys probably think that this is a space where I would flex and show, me standing next to, state dignitary or a co-founder of a unicorn or a managing partner of the venture fund or a celebrity. But truth be told, I'm not showing any pictures right now. And one of the key lessons here is trust, right? When you meet with someone, of a certain stature, the thing that they value most is actually the fact that they can trust you, right? And trust is, and once you meet someone like this, it's not for you to just go around flexing it, right? Trust me, it's very tempting for me to show a picture of you next to someone that I've met, whether it's in the event yesterday or last week or the month before, etc. But the best thing to do is try to be under the radar, right? There's a saying, someone actually said, you flex what you don't have, but when you have it, you don't flex, right? So similarly with relationships, I know it's very tempting to try and build social, social by posting pictures of you being with someone. But I think sometimes it's best to just keep it under the hood or under the low, right? And for those of you guys who know me and the people that I hang out with, if you know, right? That's basically it, right? But really the proof of whether you can know someone is in the process, right? Not in who I know, right? So that's really something what I want to try and put out here. Trust in the process and not so much about who I know, right? But first, a very quick story about when I got started. Like I said, once upon a time I was an introvert, and this goes all the way back in Old Trafford. I think the year was right about 2009 when they won the treble, right? I was there for a friendly game, and I just so happened to be in a hospitality suite. And when I was there, I stood right next to the emblem of Man United, and a certain someone walked past me. I was about to pose for a photo with this emblem, right, in the hospitality suite, and then someone literally walked in front of me, and I got starstruck. It was Gary Neville. True story, right? He stood right in front of me, and then I was there. He shook my hands, and mind you, I was about to pose for a photo with the album, and there was Gary Neville right in front of me. And the only thing I could say is, "Hey, Gary," and he looked at me, "Hey," and he shook my hand. And after he shook my hand, I just froze. I had no idea what to say. He was, holding firm to my to my palm, and I just blanked out, right? And he just, after 3 seconds, he just walked away and go on to the next guy, right? And the guy who was holding on to the camera, that was how long ago it was still a digital camera. He just looked at me and said, "Bro, like, what's wrong with you? You could have just asked him, like, hey, you want to be in a picture with me?" Or, say more than just, "Hey, Gary," and leave it as it is, right? But that was the moment where I told myself that never again I'll walk alone, but not that, but never again that, I'll have a deer in a headlight moment and freeze up when I meet someone, right? So, and that's really, the start of my journey about trying to figure out ways as to how I can really improve myself, you know, in the scene, right? So why network in person, right? We all know that Man United fan, so unfortunately, for better or worse, yeah. But let's get back to the core of this topic, right? Why network in person when it's so much more easier to shield behind the screen, send in LinkedIn messages or emails and such, right? Now, we all know that direct warm referrals or intros beats cold outreach. But at the same time, indirect warm intro or contact setting can also beat cold outreach, right? What I mean by this is that maybe, it's not someone else introducing you, but you have a kind of context about that person and you're self-introducing yourself, right? It's a sort of like indirect warm lead. And I'll go into more details about this in a bit. And of course, if you don't have someone else to refer or introduce you to that person as a warm introduction, cold outreach is still better than no outreach, right? But at the same time, no outreach is probably better than no need for an outreach. Now, just because there's someone prominent in front of you, or someone that you look up to, or you think it might be interesting for you to meet, does not mean you have to go and meet the person, right? Otherwise, you'll just be wasting people's time, and that will be kind of disrespectful of their time. And usually, people of influence are sensitive towards this. And also, you're ruining the experience for the rest of us who truly want to meet them for whatever reason or context that we have, right? So just keep that in mind. The point is, if you're going to meet someone, make sure that you have, or even attend an event, make sure you have a very clear objective, right? So what's the best case and worst case scenario? Best case scenario is you meet someone and you have a very clear ask, and the person say, cool, I want to work with you, or let's have a follow-up meeting. That's the best case scenario. The worst case scenario is the person might just say, yeah, not relevant to me, or might give you a no, or might just walk, place in front of you and you won't see the person again, right? But whatever the case may be, you have to try. But be very clear with your intent and your objective. Why you're doing this, and why are you taking up your own time as well as the person's time to strike that conversation, right? So 3 quick tips before I go into the demo of how I go about and strategizing an event. Like I mentioned earlier, trust, right? The name of the game is trust, and that's something that you do not want to destroy, right? Or stumble over, right? The next thing is be present. By being present, you give yourself an opportunity, right? If you don't even take the effort to go out to the event, or figure out which events to go to, or walk up to the stage, or walk up to the person, then you basically have no opportunity, right? That's ridiculous. Opportunity won't even happen, right? In some cases, I would go to an event even if I'm not quite sure who I want to meet yet, but I will make myself present, and you won't know who else you might meet at the event, right? Yes, you want to be as objective-minded as possible, but at the same time, be open to serendipitous encounters, right? You never know who you might meet, what other opportunities it might lead out to, right? Just to give you a quick backstory, there was one story. There was once I was stuck in an airport for about 5 hours, and the person next to me, I just strike up a conversation, right? And we spoke about just everything else under the sun. Turns out we have a similar sport that we both participated in. Not football, by the way, that's something else. And we had such a nice conversation around it, right? And we exchanged contacts thereafter. And I found out that he was the CEO of the largest private equity fund of a certain country after the fact, right? But the thing is that during that, half an hour, 1 hour conversation, whatever I had with him prior to our flight, we've built that rapport, we've built that genuine connection, right? And a relationship. And that matters when you want to do business with someone, or whether you want to get a lead for a job, or whatever opportunity that you may want, right? So I think that's a key thing to keep in mind. You want to be objective-minded, but be a bit flexible if sometimes, you're not quite sure who or why you want to meet someone, right? And if there's one thing you remember today, and you can't remember everything else, the one rule of thumb that I take with me when I go to events, and I do get nervous, believe it or not, right? Even though I've been in this game for 20 years, by now, I still do get the butterfly feeling in my tummy when I'm about to approach someone. The thing that I always remind myself is, Sharif, don't be creepy, right? I don't know, it just works for me, right? So you don't end up doing something silly, right? Like, there's a saying that goes, don't do upon others what you don't want others do upon you, right? So same rule here applies, right? And if there's one other thing, and that is look to build genuine interaction, not seek attention, right? If there's one bad example I can give you here of what not to do, that is, recently we had this issue here in Singapore where there was someone who came for I guess it's a movie premiere. I'm not too sure about this, but he essentially jumped the line and grabbed the actress, right? Like, just seeking attention. Like, he ended up getting deported and barred from entering Singapore again for his stunt. But this is seeking attention and not trying to build a genuine interaction, right? And if you're in the market to do a YouTube channel about seeking attention, fine, that's your thing, you do you, right? But if you're there to network and try and open up opportunities, don't be creepy, do the sensible thing, right? And try to build genuine interaction. Some of you might be asking, what is a genuine interaction? Happy to take a bit more questions, deep dive into this in the FAQ segment. But the TLDR of it is, we all start, if someone that you admire here is on your right hand side, right? He's of certain stature and such. The rule of the game is you want to try and be on par with, right? You may start off as a nobody to him, but within a matter of a few seconds or a couple of minutes or even in a short conversation, you want to try and establish yourself as, look, I'm peer with you in a certain category, right? Or a certain context, right? Or in a certain area. And you want the person to be able to interact with you as a human, right? Not as a fan, like don't have a fanboy moment, right? Not to put them on a pedestal, etc., right? You want to be able to be seen that you're on par with them, right? In a certain context, right? And I think that is like the main aspect of the game here, right? So that's just a few quick tips that I just want to share. But I want to just take you through very quickly as well about how I go about actually strategizing for an event, right? And we're going to go through 4 phases here. One is what I call the 30,000 feet, right? A helicopter view where you plan and strategize for an event. And then the 1,000 feet where you're actually there to attend the event and identify the right opportunities. And then you're there to make and then the 100 feet experience, which is you're about to approach someone. And then the 10 feet experience where you're just standing right in front of the person, right? And you're about to land the ask, right? Whatever your ask may be, whether it's for a job or an introduction, right? And by the way, pro tip, never ask for, if you're a startup founder trying to ask for funding, don't ask for funding, ask for advice. Similarly, if you're looking to land a role or a job opportunity or a collab or whatever, don't ask for that immediately. Ask for something, ask for an advice, right? About how perhaps, you could work together on something, right? And that tends to open up to a much more broader conversation. Then at the end of that, you can insert yourself, and offer your bring something to the table, right? Yeah. So 30,000 feet. Now, the thing is, every year there's a calendar of events, of different events, right? Depending whether you're in tech or you're in some other industry, look up for the industry that you're in, what are the calendar of events, right, that you have in a year. So this is just a quick look up, ChatGPT obviously, right, of all the various tech startup events that you have across the GCC. Non-exhaustive, there's a lot more here that's not mentioned here, like, Web Summit and so on and so forth, right? And then you zero in on the program, do a little bit of research, right? So say I'm interested to go for Web Summit in Doha itself, which next year will be on the 1st to 4th Feb. Why go for that event? Well, you're going to find all the VC guys and all the other founders, and you're going to find other senior execs who may be hiring for folks, right? So what you want to do is really go to their website and figure out who are the attendants and who are the speakers, right? And look at the potential schedule, right? Who's speaking? So for example, right, if I do want to meet with Alexander Wang, who's the founder of Scale AI, which just got acquired by Meta not too long ago, I would have to put myself in a position where I can actually meet him, right? And that's really the 1,000 square feet experience, right? Now imagine, usually websites, they'll have a pretty good, events, but sorry, have a pretty good schedule about who's speaking when, where, at which area and all that. So you got to do a bit of planning, right? So what I would typically do is, after I know what is my objective, who I'm going to talk to, which company they're from, which industry, in what capacity I'm going to speak to them about, right? And what's my ask and what I can likely offer them. I want to be able to identify my targets and plan my approach, right? Study the site of the event, right? They usually have a map of the event, right? And you want to know who's speaking where and when, right? That's like the basic 101. And some stages will be pretty massive, others will be quite small, right? More approachable. But the general setup is that they would normally have a speaker's room or speaker's corner on the side, and then the AV guys on the side, and then you'll be speaking in the front, right? This is the opportunity for you to go and then identify them and make sure that they're there, and then plan your approach, right? I would usually plan the day before to go and figure out how the stage is set up, so that I know where to wait and all that, to give myself the best chance to meet the person, right? There's other, gray hat, dark arts that I'm not gonna share here. Maybe I'll share that in my future course that's worth $9,999, which I'll drop a 90% discount later on. Just kidding. But yeah, again, that's why my number one rule rule is that don't be creepy, right? Even if you develop all these quasi dark arts, you just got to remind yourself, right? Be respectful towards others. With strong powers comes, strong great responsibility, right? To not freak the person out, right? But yeah, study the stage, right? Know the layout so that then you know where you might want to stand and give yourself the best chance to meet the person, right? And finally, the guy is done, or the guy or the girl is done, giving their panel or their keynote speech on stage, right? And you kind of know where the speaker's area or where they're going to walk out from. Or now is the 10 you're within 10 feet range, right, of the person, right? You've got the speaker in your line of sight and within earshot. Now what, right? Let the social engineering games begin. Usually, when this happens, the possible scenarios are there's a bunch of people around you crowding your target, right? Maybe there's a speaker ready room and they're there unmiking or demiking or whatever it is, right? Or maybe they might have their other employees or colleagues that are crowding around them, or they have their gatekeepers, right? Such as security chap or the PA or EA. And sometimes, folks like these are busy. They need to run to another location to do a media commitment. And someone might usher them, right? But there are some cases where the event actually actively encourage speakers to mingle with the audience. This is like the best case now. You're lucky if that's the case, right? Then you can just take a time and network with them. But this is where you got to read the temperature in the room and just brace yourself and prepare yourself on how best to react, right? There's no real right or wrong way here. You just got to develop this capability over time and hone that, right? But let's assume that, you get in front of the person somehow, and you're right in front of him, right? Now, this is the one-to-one. This is your main ultimate goal here. After all that hard work, he's right in front of you. This is not the time to have a Gary Neville moment and say their name, have a selfie. That's not it. That's not what you're in for. You're in for to basically land your ass, right? But here's the thing. Like I said earlier, don't straightaway jump to your ass. You need to make an offer about what you can bring to the table, right? You need to help level set that dynamics of power, right, between you and them, right? There's so much more details I have to go to here, but in the interest of time, I can't deep dive into this right now. But essentially, you need to set parity, right? You need to be human to human, and he needs to know that you're of value, he's of value, and you guys are going to have an exchange of value, right? And that's like the key take. Be ready to offer something and bring something to the table. Now, some of you might be saying, maybe this is the time when I name drop someone. Name drop, like I said, the first rule of thumb here is trust, right? Be very careful on how you name drop. Not too many names, right? Otherwise, the person know that you're just a name dropper, and likely you're going to name drop their name next time, and that's not going to work out as well, right? Be selective. Name drop if you absolutely feel it's must to help build some kind of contextual linkage to the person, right? I'll share with you one example I just had just a couple of weeks ago. I met with the governor of a central bank of a certain country at the FinTech Festival here in Singapore. And really, I just had one shot at walking past him and saying hello and then trying to get his attention, right? Without seeking attention myself, right? So at that point of time, I knew that from that country, I knew someone who was also very senior, who would have a license from the central bank. And I said, hey, I know this guy, right? And he immediately heard the name, and his reaction, his expression on his face changed. He knew that I was in a circle. He knew that I was with someone. I'm already in that tribe, right? And his posture changed. He started to look at me. So again, body language is also key. You gotta have to read into this, right? This will be available in my advanced course. But the point is, do what you must to capture their attention and that quick respect and parity with you, right? Sometimes it's just name dropping just with the one name, or naming an organization, or offering that value that they might need, right? So this really depends on context and from a need to need basis. But that's like the key thing, right? Once you reach that point. Yeah, so there's several possible scenarios, but I'm gonna skip this, right? Now, do you have to go to these events just to hunt for the speakers and the big guns? The answer is no. Sometimes you never know who are the regular folks around you, right? People who go to events, everybody's got something to bring to the table, and how you respond to someone's introduction to you in what they do, and you reframe the kind of opportunity there may be, is down to you, right? For someone like me who wear multiple hats representing different organizations in different settings, I'm always on the lookout for people who may be able to bring value to any one of our portfolio companies or the other organizations I'm associated to, right? So it's easy for me to context switch, right? And fit into what the other person may need, right? So this reframing of your mindset is key, right? Again, it's a fairly complex topic. Happy to go into more detail next time, but I'll leave you with this, right? Life is a long game. Whatever you do right now, you're seeding for the future, right? You cannot expect results immediately. Sometimes results can happen immediately. I've been in situations where I met someone, had a good conversation, boom, bang, realized we can help each other. Tomorrow we're jamming on a product, or we start doing business, right? It happens, right? But know that sometimes certain relationships takes a long time. There were people that I met 10 years ago that I'm finally looking to do business right now, or they would connect me with someone else to do business with someone else, right? So know that it's a long game, but every single time that you invest your time, effort, energy, resource, capital, money, flights, buying tickets, right, or hustling someone a free ticket, right, all this effort is you seeding a relationship in the future. Now, to be frank, sometimes social capital do expire, right? Some people forget about you down the line, and different people have different length of social capital, but that's another topic altogether. But the point is, seed something for the future. And whenever you think of short-term gains like taking a selfie, taking a Wi-Fi, right? There's a cost to that. And ask yourself, what is the long-term cost, right? Is it worth it? Otherwise, be objective-minded and work towards, your key ask and your key goal. Don't be creepy. Be respectful towards others. Yes, you can game the system, but once you know how to game the systems and figure out this dark art, it's a strong responsibility for you to not, creep someone else out, right? And do it responsibly. But yeah, I know this may be some of you guys, this may be 101, pretty basic, easy peasy. That's great. If you're a natural in this, fantastic. But for some of you all, this may be going out of your comfort zone. Happy to take questions that are relevant to your context, right? All right, Sid. Hope that was helpful, man. Over to you, my friend.
That was really helpful. I mean, if we weren't talking about networking, I mean, I think we'd be talking about stalking, because the level of just a level of preparation in order to make sure you meet that one person.
Yeah,
It's quite crazy. I never thought, like, I personally never thought it'd be in that much detail.
Yeah, you gotta engineer it, man. Like they say
I mean,
sometimes
I'm gonna
you
use
leave it to
those
luck,
tips
right?
in my next. So I have a video series where I find famous people in Qatar. So you just
Yeah,
give me
yeah.
you just give me a bunch of tips.
Just don't be creepy.
I'll try my best. Right. Jazakallah, thank you so much, Abdurrahman and Sharif. The amazing stuff. And so far, like, it's going really well. Let's jump into questions. I don't know if H is being sarcastic on this one or not, but have you ever looked into a person's habits before approaching them in your strategy plan? And just before I let Sharif say probably what his answer is, probably going to be a lot more correct than mine. I personally just think if I'm meeting someone, I usually, or if for me, it's more in DMs. If I'm usually DMing someone, it's kind of finding, do they have an interest in football? Do they have an interest in, I don't know, brunch? Are they big fans of a certain something? And then that's a good conversation starter. So football is usually quite easy, even though I don't actually watch much football. But I find that an easy way to just have a very quick conversation. And like Sharif said about when he met someone at the airport, because that was a very genuine interaction. Like, when you have a conversation with no end goal, like with no, I want to get this from them, you just have a normal conversation. I think people forget that at the end of the day, you're just talking to someone. I guess there's an efficiency of, I don't want to spend an hour talking to someone and it doesn't result in anything, but that, that you've still talked to someone, you've still spoken about something, it's not necessarily a bad thing. But again, like, we're talking about the Web Summit coming up in Feb. There's going to be a lot of people, so yeah, you might want to pick who are you going to speak to? And if I remember correctly, I didn't get to visit last year, but if I remember correctly, they're very long days. And lots of speakers, lots again spread out, and if you're like Sharif, you'll know exactly where you need to be at a certain given moment in time. But I'll let Sharif answer the question. I'll just repeat it. Have you ever looked into a person's habits before approaching them?
Yeah. So that's a bit of an advanced
H is here as well.
tactic, right?
Yeah. It wasn't a sarcastic question. It was a genuine question because, like, I myself went to a money expo. So I'm a software engineer in the stock exchange. I went to a money expo today because I thought, I might find out something beneficial for me because I work with algorithms and strategies and stuff like that, and I program them.
Yeah,
but
very cool.
It was a pretty failed endeavor for me because I didn't learn anything, and in the process, I didn't really speak to anyone because everyone was new. They were all, I guess, going to understand the basics about trading. But for someone like me that has a decent amount of experience and I work on this on the day-to-day, for me, it was like, okay, yeah, I didn't really benefit from this. But even though there were like a couple of people that had some relevant skills that were speakers, but just, I guess, interacting with them is it poses difficult because they get huddled by everyone right at the end once they're done speaking. So it's like, okay, if I just go out, I'm just going to look like a number in a crowd. So yeah, I just want a genuine question. Have you looked into habits?
Totally. The thing is, you got to realize is that the more influential or more popular, for lack of better words, right? The more popular the person is, right? And the bigger the event is, and the more volume of people trying to talk to this one person, right? The lesser your odds of being able to interact with the person, right? So sometimes you really just have to have the one shot, and that could be as little as 5 to 10 seconds to pick their interest, which then could lead to a 30 seconds to 1 minute conversation, right? So for me, for every event, I would have like say 3 to 5, A-list guys that I know that I need to talk to them for a certain reason. And then the rest are, I'm a bit more relaxed, right? If I miss, I miss. If I meet, it's okay, right? And for my A-listers, I would go as far as, if this is my first time meeting them, if I don't already know them, if I don't already follow them, I would go as far as doing a search on YouTube, and not just do like a LinkedIn or a Wikipedia thingy-majig, right? I would actually try and find videos of previous interviews about them and watch their interviews, right? Because I want to hear how they sound like, right? I don't want to get caught out in my 5-10 seconds in front of them. Suddenly their voice sounds funny, I start giggling or something stupid, right? Or mentally I do a silly joke in my mind, right? I don't want that, right? I don't want any surprises, right? So I want to know how they dress. I want to know how they present themselves, carry themselves, the tonality, how they speak, right? So I can try and mirror or match their energy, right? And that takes a bit of research. And again, what I do is simply look them up for interviews on YouTube, etc. Right? I think that's pretty helpful. So short answer is yes. I look into the person's, maybe not so much habits, but how.
Like dress format, watches if they like certain topics.
Yes. Right.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And about dress and all that, I try not to. So yes, in some days you want to dress to impress, but not overly do it, right? Like ideally you want to, again, the key theme is parity. You want to match what they are, and it's okay to underdress a little bit, right? Or dress uniquely or different, right? For me, whenever I go to these events, because I'm from Singapore, I've got my Indonesian roots as well. I would wear a batik, right? A batik is I don't have it here, but it's a traditional Indonesian wear where you can wear it as a formal, or traditional wear in events, right? It does stand out a little bit. It makes me, differ from a suit or a thobe, right? But it's not, over the top or too slack, right? Too casual, right? So that works for me. That's my secret that I've figured out. So things like flexing the watch and all that, really, if they're genuine influential folks, honestly, I don't think they care too much about this, right? I think people care more about having an intellectual connection, and that's something you should strive for within the first 10, 15, 20, 30 seconds. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Hope that helps. No worries, man.
Amazing. Next question we have, Abdurrahman did answer it in the chat, but Sharif, did you visit the Web Summit last year?
Yeah, I'm wearing I'm wearing the Leap hoodie right now, and that's based in Riyadh, right? But yes, I've
Okay,
been
okay.
to Web Summit,
So
2 or 3
we've got
Web Summit.
Samina asking if the ticket price is worth it, which is 2,000
Okay.
riyals. I've not
Yeah.
personally been, so I can't answer on that.
All right.
Unfortunately, I couldn't go.
So,
But what do you say?
so yeah. So first of all, yes, even if you have to shell out, this is what I call an investment, right?
Yeah.
Even if you have to shell
Abdurrahman
out
said yes,
tickets,
by
shell
the
out.
way.
But here's a semi pro tip, right? Usually events like this, they would also give either a free tier or a much more cost-effective version, right, with limited access, right? And sometimes certain organizations, sponsors, they will be giving out tickets as well, right? And sometimes you may know within your own circle network of friends someone who's speaking, who can then potentially invite you as a speaker's guest. And this is what I call the hustle, right? Again, engineer. Maybe if you're starting out, in this industry, or you're new, you're 16 years old, whatever it is, you may not have all this, context and cheat code, right? But if you're, in the later part of your career, chances are someone within your network would have access to tickets, or certain organizations will be able to give you tickets, right? To folks who are earlier in their career. So yeah, look out for those, and you might shell out $0 for this sort of tickets.
Yeah, I mean, if all goes well, inshallah, with FAQ, who knows, we can get a sponsor for the Qatar Expo Web Summit, inshallah. Does anyone have any other questions? Hamza did have another question, which was, how do you maintain the long-term professional / business relation in order for that seed to pay off? So, earlier you were referring to, you planted the seed. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's the next day you're already working on something together. But if it is something long-term, like how do you maintain that? What would you say?
Yeah. So there's no real right or wrong answer to this, and I'm not saying how I do it is the best way approach to it, but I tend to look at connections as relationships, right? So like I would, your usual, right? When you've got Eid coming up or a certain festivity and all that, do drop them a message. Sometimes a simple birthday message might help, right? But you want to be genuine, right? Not just like a cookie cutter sort of thing, right? Family matters, right? Get to know them. If they're a type that would open up about the family, and it's fine in sharing, or you found a common thread, whether it's about family, certain sport or interest, music, etc. Genuinely try to, find a way you can connect through that, right? That could also be a way to, build further on that relationship. Sometimes, you're visiting the country, right? If you're visiting, drop them a note and say, hey, I'm going to be in town, want to catch up, right? There was someone whom I was on a connecting flight transit, and I was on a 20-hour layover. I literally went out the airport, and it was Valentine's Day, and I knew the person was going to be in office. It's a guy as well, right? We're both family men, so nothing weird about that, right? But um, I brought coffee and cake and say, hey, look, we're away from our family, but let's spend Valentine's Day together and hang out, right? And he truly appreciated that, right? So things like that, right? Like a normal relationship, things that you do in a normal relationship. Now, having said that, I want to stress this again. While you look to seed relationships and score social capital, right? Keep in mind that sometimes social capital do have an expiry date. It differs from person to person, right? Someone will remember you for a very long time. Someone else, you might do a massive deed and then forget you the very next day, right? So just be mindful, like you don't expect for someone to remember what you did 6 months ago, 7 months later, right? So for me, one of my, I'd say, weakness is I don't do too good of a job in terms of following up on that person once I've established that relationship. Where sometimes the person may have forgotten about me, and I think there's something I can encash in that social capital, right? So sometimes you got to be mindful about giving yourself a bit more urgency, to if there's something that you want to transact sooner rather than later, but don't rush, right? Yeah, so it's hard to put a figure or a timeline to it, but that's something you will learn with experience, and also depending on the person
Yeah,
that you're
I
with.
guess it's also a two-way street where, like, if you're constantly reaching out and then there's like no feedback, then I think you've got your answer as well.
Yeah.
We'll
Yeah,
have
the boat has sailed.
Yeah, we'll have one more question after this if we get one. But penultimate question, Samina's asking, I think this is more for me. I mean, Abdurrahman, if he's had any experiences, I don't know what the landscape in Singapore is like. I assume you're asking about Qatar. In your view, are there meaningful differences in how women approach or experience networking versus men? She's UK based, looking to relocate, so she's trying to understand the differences. Um, I mean, Sharif, do you have anything to say about that anyway? Like, as a general, it doesn't have to be Qatar or Singapore, but you have
Sure.
networked in Qatar. Do you think there are any
Yeah.
differences for men and women?
So first of all, the best person to answer this will obviously be another woman, right?
Probably, yeah.
But in the absence of a fellow sister in this panel, I'll try and take a stab at it. Obviously, so for me, when I'm approaching another lady, I'm a bit more mindful about it, right?
Mhm.
But for us, of course, culturally, we're aware about things like, we try not to do the handshake if someone else don't extend their hands, right?
Yeah.
Like that. I will normally put my palm on my chest, right? As a sign of hello, respect, right? But other than that, I think so far, if you're in a public setting, and if you're approaching with a certain objective, clear objective in mind, I've not had someone who shunned away from me. At least I don't remember. If they don't have to, if they're not rushing out somewhere else. I think the common thing is sometimes you're just going to be mindful when you want to greet them, right? What's the right approach of manner? If they do,
Yeah.
I've been on the receiving end when I met someone from the Western setting in Doha itself, right? Where she extended her hand to me not once, twice, probably three times. But I was very adamant about keeping my wudu at that point of time. So I did this three times as well, right? I'm
Yeah,
like,
that's a very common.
bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I've approached in events in Qatar as well. It's like, you know, you can tell straight away, they're wearing the scarf, and I think it's just being aware culturally. Obviously, for
Right.
me, it's just a hand on the chest, and then
Yep.
just kind of saying. For me, it was someone I can't even remember the company, but it was just someone I knew that it would be a good chance to speak with, because she was the head of marketing at a company. So at the end of the day, it's you're trying to speak to the person, and I think that the only differences are the cultural. But I don't think it'll make a huge difference, Sabina. Obviously, the UK, I imagine, is very different, but I don't think there's a huge, not even a problem, but there's not a huge barrier for women or men in approaching each other. At the end of the day, like Web Summit will be a massive event, mixed, you know. So yeah, I think it'll be a great opportunity. Obviously, if you are thinking of coming out to the Web Summit. We've not had any more questions in the chat, so and it is getting late as well, even for myself, and I assume it's nearly 1 o'clock now, or what time it is in Singapore. So we'll let Sharif
1
head out
a.m.
as well. Thank you very much to Sharif and Abdurrahman. Amazing tips. If you came later, Abdurrahman gave us some tips on how to find the right people you're looking for in terms of when you're looking for managers, recruiting managers, etc. This video. This webinar will go up on YouTube, inshallah. I'll just edit it out and make sure it looks good on YouTube. So hopefully tomorrow it should be up there. Jazakallah, very useful. Alhamdulillah, I'm glad it has been very useful. And that was the main thing. Like let's give this a go. I think Sharif has a lot to share. So does Abdurrahman. So maybe another one. Maybe another session would be good, inshallah. Just before you go, I just want to share. I've got two guides that for anyone that's interested in either relocating or traveling to Qatar. There's a specific discount for the people in the webinar. But if you're genuinely looking to get yourself relocated, and you're at that point where you're thinking, right, I'm ready to go, or I've got my job offer, or even if it's a bit earlier and you're thinking, actually, I don't know whether it's worth moving or not, I want to see what the cost of living is going to be like, etc., then I've got a full relocation guide. It's more than 150 pages long, and it's got all the information that I wish I was given when I first moved. A lot of things are gate kept in this region. People love gatekeeping. I don't know why. So when I released this, they were like, how dare you reveal our secrets? But yeah, so if you're interested, there's a special discount code for I hope you can see it. It's Qatar 15. So definitely go check that out, inshallah, on my website. And yeah, I think it's been a really successful session. If Hamza, have you got a question? Is that why you've revealed your face again?
No, I just wanted to see Sharif face to face. You know,
If I stop sharing, then you should
make
definitely be able to see each other.
Make the eye contact and connect.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
Jazakallah.
I know I look full of energy right now, but trust me, after I turn off the webcam, I'm spent.
I
Right?
mean,
The
it is
intro side,
1:15 in the
intro
morning,
bit,
so
You should
Yeah.
let the man sleep.
what we'll do is we'll try
But
and make
no,
the
Hamza,
next
happy to
one
catch up.
more friendly in
Yeah.
time.
Awesome. Yes, we will definitely like have a chat. Hopefully,
Yeah.
when you have time.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Speaking of networking, I've of course, you got to leave your credentials behind. I've left my email address and also my LinkedIn. Feel free to connect. That's another pro tip. Always be ready to exchange stuff and have all your QR code and all that ready. But all those even more pro tip will be in my masterclass.
I think we need to do
9,999. Yeah.
To be honest, I
Yeah,
think we need
and-
another session. I need to
There's
learn.
a friends and family discount.
I need to
Maybe
learn
like
some more of
Yeah,
these tips.
Yeah, I'll give the 90% discount on my $9,999 masterclass.
Still a good.
Sign up link below.
So kind.
So, Jazakallah, thank you very much for the people on the panel giving their knowledge, mashallah. And thank you very much for people that participated, asked questions. That truly means a lot. Even if it's the last minute, I'll try to do some more marketing next time. Again, this was a taster session. I think alhamdulillah went quite well. So I'm looking forward to the next one, and I'm looking forward to Sharif's inshallah next time. Right, thank you very much.
All right. Yeah.
And for those watching on YouTube, make sure you join the next one. Inshallah, I will provide more details coming up.
And yeah,